High-end brands attract high-end customers. The next step for Bahamas.
Coming up in the Bahamas Tonight, a cabinet minister says by the time the next election comes around, the Bahamas issue would have been long resolved. We'll bring you all those details, so stay tuned.
Another person hauled before the court on obstruction of justice charges. We have those details coming up in the Bahamas Tonight.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Executives of one of the key brands of the Bahamas resort say the anticipation among high-end vacationer still exists for the Bahamian Riviera. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us.
And I'm Charisma Robinson. ZNS News broke the story yesterday that the luxury SLS Hotel Group is not only ready to brand and operate one of the hotels of the Bahama project, but has their eyes set on the Rosewood property as well. Company executives made the disclosure during a meeting with the Prime Minister at his Cable Beach office. Tonight, Clint Watson explains how the company dealt with the delayed opening of the multi-billion-dollar resort and what their projects are when the mega resort opens its doors.
Chairman of the SLS Group, San Nazarian, says if marketed properly and open in the right season, Bahamas should do well. And in fact, he goes as far as to say it will exceed expectation.
This property, the amount of anticipation for it, I look at it from the optimistic side, and actually the glass is half full, half empty side. The amount of anticipation for this property is off the charts. So from my standpoint, obviously we believe in it. We're back here, spending some time with the Prime Minister and really trying to pick his brain on how we can be more helpful, because we want to really double down in our efforts here. Yeah. So I'll leave that to the people that have all the books on the overall Bahamas investment. But for our particular piece, our important piece of the SLS and our two restaurants, we're very confident that we'll hit our numbers and if not beat them.
And what about those pre-booked customers waiting to stay at the SLS property? Well, Nazarian says they were able to deal with this issue without any hiccups.
3 hotels open in South Beach, Miami, and we're building 6 more in Miami proper. So we're able to move around a lot of our customers that wanted to come to the Bahamas this mid-year before obviously everything got delayed. So we were able to move them into Miami or other hotels in this market.
In fact, Nazarian went further and outlined that the high-end SLS brand will, in his view, always attract high-end clientele who travel not necessarily to a location, but to their property.
Brand is important, and for them, they will always go to somewhere where once it's open, they'll feel the excitement. And really the reason for this hotel, in many ways, has been really the first time a property like this has been built in the Bahamas. So I think everyone's very eager. I mean, all the aspect of the delays aside, everyone's very excited, and even people that know a lot about it, our bookers, our wedding planners, all the big people that drive business cannot wait for it to open. They're not really bothered much about the politics of it. They actually want the property to open so they can send their business.
Prime Minister, the Honorable Perry Christie, says he is not surprised with the commitment and level of optimism by the high-end hotel group.
We went to Las Vegas for their opening in Las Vegas. We've been at South Beach, the property in South Beach. I've stayed there. I've seen the people who frequent it. In fact, Clint, I used to tell my wife, I said, when Bahamas opens and you're looking for me, you're going to find me in the SLS facility. You just come and look for me there, because it was such a wonderful kind of environment and atmosphere to be in. And so really, I'm happy that they were able to come in now. I'm happy that they've been able to express themselves in such a confident way. I'm happy that they have indicated, given the fact that they are also in an expansionist mode.
Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Clint, thanks a lot. A cabinet minister tonight responds to criticism over the government's involvement in Bahamas. In fact, he bashed those who are playing the blame game and says the project could be open more sooner than later. Here's Janaea Noel Ferguson.
Agriculture and Marine Resources Minister V. Alfred Gray mincing no words on those who choose to criticize the government and Prime Minister Perry Christie for their involvement in the stalled Bahamas project.
But I don't think he should take responsibility for what's going on. And I think that's an unfair criticism of him because, I'm not a party. He's not a party to the thing. And people are talking about if the winding up had taken place overseas, we'd been better off. What stupidity! What stupidity coming from a man like the Carl Bethels of our country. I'm very surprised because if the Bahamas had no jurisdiction over what is happening, you'd think things are bad now, they will be extremely worse. And so at least we are in control. I'm talking about the Bahamas. It's control of the contractual situation in the Bahamas as it ought to be.
Now, last week, some 2,000 employees were laid off from Bahamar. Gray says despite the noise in the market, the nation's leader is doing all he can to have those persons re-engaged with the speedy opening of Bahamar.
Everybody knows the government is not responsible for the catastrophe which is presently ongoing with Bahamar. I think I must honestly say the Prime Minister has made, and he continues to make, his best effort to ensure that the parties who are responsible. See, contractual arrangements are between parties. The contract is between the construction company, the bank, and Bahamar owners. The government just was invited to get involved in it, and the Prime Minister is again working overtime.
Now, while some have suggested, even some within their own party, that the Bahamar issue could cause the PLP administration the next election, Gray says by the time the election comes about, the Bahamar issue would have been long resolved.
Listen, everything that is affecting and affects Bahamians are important to elections. But I don't know that by the time election comes around in 2017, this will be an issue. I think it's going to be resolved, and as soon as it's resolved, people will be employed or re-employed, as the case might be. And so if this continues until 2017, I don't know what I'll say, but certainly I will be totally disappointed. And so let them keep their eyes on us. We have a plan. We're working that plan out, and I believe Bahamar will be resolved in the next few months.
Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
Days after being given redundancy letters by Bahamar, a number of those displaced workers have headed to the Department of Labor in search of a job. Caller Bahamas Tonight tells us about the unexpected increase in job seekers that now has employees at the Labor Department working even harder to assist.
The Director of Labor, Robert Farquharson, and his team are working in overdrive due to the high volume of persons seeking help. One after the next, the former resort workers showed up to register for assistance with the Bahamas Employment Exchange.
Exercise their option and their benefits under the National Insurance Act to apply for unemployment benefits. And applying for unemployment benefits, they would have to come to the Department of Labor and to register.
We try to match job vacancies with job seekers. We anticipate that over the next few days we will have additional employees from Bahamas who would have gone to the National Insurance Board to apply for the unemployment benefit to come to the Department of Labor. We encourage those persons to, when they come, to bring a government-issued passport, a resume, and a national insurance card. Those are the tools that we would need to properly register you in the Bahamas Employment Exchange database. The purpose of this database obviously is used whenever there is a job vacancy that occurs and it's brought to our attention, either through our partnership with a number of employers or through the government policy, which is designed whereby no work permit is issued if there are qualified Bahamians available to do that job.
In addition to the 47,000 job seekers already in the database, Farquharson must now add those recently released workers to the register. He confirms the numbers to be so overwhelming since Friday passed, his staff had to be repositioned to deal with the crowd. According to Farquharson, while there is currently limited job availability in the hospitality industry, he is still optimistic the market will open soon. He alluded to the Warwick Hotel on Paradise Island and the Marriott Hotel on West Bay Street, which he says will be looking to fill positions as both properties prepare to open.
The Marriott property will be open by the end of December, and it's anticipated that the Warwick property will open early in 2016. While it's a limited amount, we want to encourage those persons who are unemployed to make sure that they make themselves marketable and make themselves available to these properties. In addition to that, Carla, it is anticipated that the government of the Bahamas, while working with the stakeholders at Bahama, will have this matter resolved. Based on the heads of agreement, Bahama is expected to employ in excess of 5,000 people. We hope and we pray that once the matter of the liquidation is complete, these same 2,000 employees who are made redundant will be re-employed by Bahama, because they have already been trained. They've been working I have been training for the past 4 or 5 months. So it is anticipated that these people will be re-engaged by Bahama whenever the property is open. And that.
According to the Director of Labor, the former Bahama employees are entitled to up to 13 weeks in unemployment benefits, as well as redundancy pay. Carla Palmer, ZNS Network News.
A 50-year-old Tall Pines Road resident is the latest to be arraigned in connection with witness tampering. Teresa Lamar appeared before Magistrate Darren Roll Davis on 2 counts of obstruction of justice and 2 counts of conspiracy to obstruct justice.
It's alleged that she intimidated Mario Bain and Rashad Rogers, who were witnesses in a criminal trial. She denies the charges, though. Lamar was represented by attorney Krista Mason-Smith, who pointed out the named complainant were not listed as witnesses. Bail was granted in the sum of $5,000 with one surety. The matter was adjourned to November 23rd. The phone lines remain open at the Rebuild Bahamas Telethon, which kicked off this evening at the Atlantis Resort on Paradise Island. The fundraiser is a part of efforts to hurricane victims, help them to rebuild their lives. If you'd like to donate, you can call 323-4119 here in New Providence, or toll free from the Family Islands at 242-300-9400 and 1-844-252-0176 in the United States. The telethon is a joint project of the Rotary and the Chamber of Commerce. I'm one of the hosts for the evening, so make sure to stay tuned to ZNS Network following this newscast for that live show.
The business community continuing to support the rebuilding efforts in wake of Hurricane Joaquin. Today, Sun Oil Limited presented a $100,000 check to the National Emergency Management Agency and the newly formed Bahamas Disaster Relief Committee. President and CEO of Focal is Anthony Robinson.
A group of companies have decided to assist NEMA and the government of the Bahamas in their effort to bring relief to our fellow Bahamians whose lives have been adversely impacted by the hurricane. We are grateful to be in a position to assist our brothers and sisters in their time of need. To this end, on behalf of Focal Holdings, we present a check to NEMA in the amount of $100,000. Happy to say this is a check and not just a pledge.
This was the first presentation to the newly formed and appointed Disaster Relief Committee headed by Royal Bank of Canada Executive Nathaniel Benaby. The committee, which will oversee the financial affairs of the rebuilding project and receive donations, is outfitted with the notable executives from the private sector. Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Perry Christie, and Benaby spoke about the importance of such a committee.
A special committee comprised of special people, each of whom in their own right are significant personalities in our country, and who have agreed to be a part of fundraising for purposes of remediating the damages arising out of the hurricane.
We want to assure you, sir, and the Bahamian people that the mandate given to us by the government will be carried out, and we applaud you for the selection of such independent committee to ensure transparency, accountability, and we will take much care in our due diligence and ensuring that the ask of us and the expectations are met with regard to trust and credibility in the execution of our duties to ensure that these funds are used for the intended purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also today, the National Emergency Management Agency purchased $160,000 in building materials to be used in repair efforts to rebuild and restore normalcy to islands devastated by Hurricane Joaquin. NEMA Executive Director Captain Stephen Russell says the 2 trucks of supplies bought with monies donated to the agency are set to be shipped to Long Island on Wednesday or Thursday at the latest. Another $170,000 in supplies will be purchased for repairs in other islands.
One of our other suppliers, they're now gearing, I'm loading up supplies for some of the other islands, and they likewise should go sometime this afternoon. Again, our relief and repair program, we want it in all earnest to start as of Monday, the 2nd of November. Simultaneously, while we're trying to get our building material into the islands, the island administrators are now assembling repair and reconstruction teams. What that is all about, we've asked each island to form teams of nine persons. 9 persons per team.
As much as 36 people will be employed in Long Island, Crooked Island, and Acklands. He says a team from the National Repair and Reconstruction Unit were in the islands conducting assessments and are aware of the needs of each household. Reconstruction will follow the repair phase, during which time, Russell says, NEMA will determine if the homes that require rebuilding will be relocated or remain in the same area. Russell also noted that distribution of relief supplies has been going adequately.
We're going to change the concept and to put all those homes that we reconstruct now or rebuilt on pylons now instead of flat on the ground, to take in consideration the surge or the wind that may come with future storms. We've heard some remarks in reference to the coordination or lack of coordination. We have a system. The idea, if persons who are donating goods to a disaster area, once those goods go in through our administrators and our team that is in place, we can further distribute them in a systematic manner. But when anybody comes and just dumping their supplies into an area, that overwhelms the system because we're not sure who they're coming to. But if they go in the care of the administrator and our relief and distribution team, we can receive them and effectively distribute them in the islands.
More than a week after the Department of Meteorology came under fire due to claims of a malfunctioning radar at the height of Hurricane Joaquin, Director Trevor Baston is making what he says are important distinctions. Cleopatra Murphy has more on why he felt clarification is necessary.
Director of the Department of Meteorology, Trevor Baston, says the public is confused about the role and skill level of meteorologists and forecasters in the wake of claims that the department's Doppler radar was not functional at some point during Hurricane Joaquin. He says the profession works on a 3-tiered system, with the difference in job functions being likened to those of doctors and nurses. When hurricanes form, degreed meteorologists take the helm.
It was not well understood by the press, so I think you've been using them interchangeably, causing, with applying the term meteorologist to someone who is a forecaster. However, we do have meteorologists who perform forecasting duties.
Baston says the distinctions are necessary after media reports suggested officials viewed some forecasters as incompetent. He explains there are meteorological observers, forecasters who would have received 18 months training and certification by the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, and training in weather forecasting and aviation. Meteorologists have a degree in meteorology, and their education is more in-depth.
Any decision to be made must be accurate, and the level of understanding of these systems, their movement and direction, and also to consult with the National Hurricane Center requires someone of that academic training, at that level.
Baston acknowledges the public concern about the accuracy of the department's reports. He says the fact that his team broke rank with the National Hurricane Center and issued warnings for the Bahamas despite hurricane models should assure Bahamians.
The back and forth arguments on the models and their tracking and the dynamics behind them and all that stuff, we had to put to them, to say, listen here, we know our stuff. And again, for them to commend us for doing so should indicate to the general public that you have persons in place.
Baston says the fact that local meteorologists can make a more accurate decision than the regional authority is a noteworthy accomplishment. Cleopatra Murphy, ZNS Network News.
This is your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm Jimenita Swain. Central Bank Governor Wendy Craig says she believes the long-awaited Credit Bureau will eliminate an information asymmetry that favors consumers over banks and encourages overborrowing that plunges Bahamians even deeper into debt. Craig's comments came as she recently addressed the Nassau Bahamas alumni chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She told the body that the Credit Bureau will enable lending institutions to better assess a borrower's creditworthiness. The central bank expects legislation to create the Credit Bureau will be brought to Parliament in early 2016, and if passed, the full implementation will take 1 year or more depending on data accumulation. In other business news, Margaritaville is set to open its first branded Bahamian store in the Bahamas this fall with an open-air location on Paradise Island. Margaritaville Chief Executive John Colin said Margaritaville is the place for all those looking to relax and escape the day-to-day, if only for a couple of hours. He added that the company could not think of a better home than Paradise Island to build its first restaurant. And in international business news, UPS is predicting that holiday deliveries will rise at least 10% from a year ago. This as it expects to deliver 630 million packages between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve. The Associated Press is reporting that UPS expects its busiest days to be the Tuesday before Christmas on December 22nd, when it expects to deliver more than 36 million packages, double the normal day's load. On Monday, its rival FedEx said it expects shipments to rise 12.4% between Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. It seems online shopping growth is helping both companies. That was your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm Jimenita Swain.
Hoping to create a more skilled labor force in the country, Skills Bahamas launched its Upskill program today. The development and training company will combine the knowledge of the Bahamian workplace with certification and training materials used by international agencies. Upskill Bahamas partner Charles Benaby says one of the biggest challenges facing the Bahamas is having a workforce that can move the country toward possible opportunities. It's an issue the agency hopes to address.
Upskill has to do with those competencies that are needed at the bottom of an organization, primarily, but throughout the entire organization. That is non-degree focused, it is workplace relevant, and provides the individuals who participate in an upskilling the requisite skills to develop themselves and ultimately to develop the organization. We believe through this upskill process, organizations will see growth because ownership will be taken by everyone within the workplace.
The program is being launched with focus on the hospitality industry. On November 9th, the organization will begin the program with a group of security officers. An employment drive will also be hosted on November 2nd. Dion Simon Cox urged those in the industry to take advantage of the service.
As persons that are in the trenches, as persons that are aware of what it is that are aware of what's going on in the hospitality industry, we invite you to participate, to encourage your staff to take a self-interest, but most importantly, an interest in this country, as we, through Upskill, offer an option of personal development and the growth of our country at large.
Members of the Endowment Trust Fund at Christ Church Cathedral on George Street are planning an observance of Cathedral Week. It's a new initiative that organizers are committed to making an annual event. Set for November 1st through 7th, it aims at creating a greater awareness between the City of Nassau and the Church of Christ Church. Church Rector, the Very Reverend Dean Patrick Adderley, highlighted the event's significance as built on the historical premise of Nassau becoming a city because of the cathedral at that church.
It was highly significant, being premised upon a royal order made by Her Majesty Queen Victoria of Great Britain on the 4th of November 1861. Queen Victoria was also then head of the Church of England, which extended throughout the colonies, which included the islands of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands.
the royal order mandated that the edifice of Christ Church become henceforth a cathedral. Nassau then, as a result of that, became a city. It is proposed that the week will commence with an official service on Sunday, the 1st of November at 4 p.m.
Pegged as the high mark to the week's event is a recognition and award ceremony of some 30 people. Committee members of the Endowment Trust, Dr. Harold Munnings, has been charged with leading this effort, and Mr. Llewellyn Burrows is responsible for the street festival.
It's been my honor and pleasure to be tasked with preparing and identifying a select group of persons who would be generally recognized as having made a significant contribution to the development of the city of Nassau. Some current, some historical, but generally well recognized.
So once all the formalities are done, we hope to have a little fun as well. And so we want to wrap up the week with the first Cathedral Nassau Street Festival, which will happen on George Street on Saturday the 7th of November starting at 10 a.m. So we're looking to turn George Street into a fun and festival family atmosphere. We'll have a variety of stalls set up to include lots of good food, drinks, games, and entertainment for the young and the not so young.
Well, the BTC Family Island Connection is next.
You're watching the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report.
The Family Island News is brought to you by Shop Smart. Shop a lot and save a lot.
In tonight's Family Island Connection, Keishla Adderley introduces you to a BTC staffer playing a key role in the communications network in Grand Bahama.
To the average person, it's a confusing web of crossed wires.
It's a bit intimidating when you first see it. When I first saw it, I said, how do you figure out what is what and who is who? But it's very simple. It's just a code that they have their numbers that connected to it. Okay. And you know.
I doubt it.
You know, trust me.
But aisle upon aisle, it's the network DeCarlo Sweeting, BTC's Senior Technical Associate, uses to connect Grand Bahama to the rest of the world.
We're in the Nerve Center?
Yes, this is what we call the central office.
Sweeting and one other staff member runs the technical office in Freeport. He's a big part of rolling out an ongoing upgrade for Grand Bahama.
We are about to go into all of the different areas, and we're going to put our Calyx equipment. The Calyx equipment is going to allow us to be able to give higher internet speeds and also introduce our BTC IPTV system.
Grand Bahama is now part of the National Backup Plan.
What we have in place now is we have a redundancy network, meaning that the same network that's in Nassau, in Providence, we have in Grand Bahama. So therefore, if there's a fiber cut or there's some kind of natural disaster, each one of the islands can take over for the other one. So if there's something that happens in Nassau, we can take over. Calls will not be interrupted, internet services will not be interrupted. The Bahamas will not be lost to the world because of our new system.
You may see Sweeting as a committed staffer. That he is, but he's also a satisfied customer.
Right now, this is an iPhone 6. Right now, working on our LTE network. It can encounter up to, I've been getting up to 21 megs at times, and it's beautiful. I can watch TV, I can watch YouTube,
You can watch yourself.
Yep.
Keishla Adderley for the BTC Island Connection.
Well, Chris, it's time now for Check
on That iPhone 6 always looks beautiful.
You and your iPhones.
I love them.
Samsung.
You and Baz on this Samsung tip. Baz, what's going on over there in the world of weather around the Family Islands? Our guardian of the weather over there.
Well, we're going to first of all take a look at those temperatures around the Family Islands, and up there in Freeport, Grand Bahama, we have 80 degrees, 81 in Bimini, the Berry Islands also 81, 80 degrees in Green Tulkey and Marsh Harbor, Ivanhoe, Harbour Island 81, also in Roxanne, Eleuthera, it is 81 degrees. Here in the capital, 82, Fresh Creek, Central Andrews, 81, 80 degrees in Camp Space, Daniel Key in Exuma Chain, 82, 82 also at Otterstown, Cat Island. San Salvador, Rum Key, Exuma Mainland, all at 82. Long Island, 83. Crooked Island, Acklands, 83 as well. Getting into some 84s, Meguana, Matthew, Tananagua, the Turks and Caicos Islands also reporting 84 degrees at this hour.